Hi, my dear friends. Some words of Torah for Parshat VaEschanan. We all know that part and parcel of what it means to be a Jew is to preserve our physical health. We aren't permitted to take unnecessary risks, and we're supposed to eat, drink, exercise, and overall treat our bodies responsibly. What is the source for this in the Torah? According to the Rambam, it is based on 2 verses from our Parsha. What is surprising, however, is that when you look at these verses, you'd never know that they were addressing the obligation to take care of one's physical well-being from their context. First, let's look at a story from the Talmud. The rabbis state that when in the midst of praying the Amidah, the silent Shmona Esrei, we're not permitted to interrupt our prayers for any reason. The one exception is if someone's life is in danger. No mitzvah, with rare exception, takes priority over preserving one's health. Thus, if a threatening authority figure walks past you while you're davening, and if you were to remain silent, you might face his wrath, you are supposed to interrupt even your Shmona Esrei in order to greet the ruler. The Gemara brings a story of a devout individual, a chassid, who did not obey this halacha and continued his silent prayer even as a high-ranking Gentile politician approached and greeted him. This ruler was so incensed by this snub that he waited for the Jew to finish davening and then said to him, "It says in your Torah, Rak hishomer lecha ushmor nafshecha," and it also says, "V'nishmartem ma'od lenafshotechem," 2 psukim from Deuteronomy chapter 4, which both mean that one is obligated to watch over and preserve his soul. What right did you have to ignore me when I extended my greeting to you? Don't you realize that I could have killed you for that insurrection? The devout man was able to excuse himself sufficiently and save his life, and therefore the apparently wise and benevolent ruler spared him. The only problem with this story is that the context of the verses cited by the non-Jewish man have nothing to do with preserving one's health. To the contrary, they deal with the obligation to remember the events at Mount Sinai and the prohibition of idolatry. Our Parsha has Moshe warning the Jews that when they enter the new land, they will encounter foreign cultures with enticing idolatrous practices. Watch over and preserve your soul, Moshe charged. Don't stray after idols. Clearly, the context has nothing to do with eating healthy, exercising, and avoiding risks. Yet, the Rambam cites our text when stating, and I quote, "One is obligated to remove and avoid at all costs any obstacle that presents a mortal danger," as it says, "Hishomer lecha ushmor nafshecha." Be very careful to protect your soul. Now, where does this verse, which talks about the soul and is in the context of a religious admonition, allude to this new halacha of preserving one's physical health? The Netziv suggests that the clue is from the strange conjugation. If the verse was only referring to one's spiritual well-being, it should have said, "Ushmartem me'od et nafshotechem," carefully guard your soul. But instead, the verse contains an unusual conjugation of "v'nishmartem lenafshotechem," which literally means you shall be carefully entrusted to your soul. That is, there's something about you other than your soul that must be preserved together with your soul, and thus it refers to the body. But still, why did the Torah present the obligation to preserve one's physical health in the context of preserving oneself spiritually and avoiding idolatry? Rav Hirsch beautifully explains, what, after all, he asks, is idolatry? It is focusing on the physical trappings of existence, even to the point of ascribing physical characteristics to one's deity in order to draw religious inspiration. In reality, however, a Jew is supposed to infer that the forces which provide blessing and well-being transcend the physical plane. When I look at myself in the mirror, I know that there is much more to me than just my face or my body. My soul is really the main part of me. As such, we all appreciate that there is a spiritual dimension that far transcends the veneer of our physical being, and is in a sense even more real than our physical existence. Once we recognize that the main part of a human being is their soul, it would be grossly incorrect to translate God, the completely transcendent being, into our lower physical plane by attributing any physical qualities to him. The commandment of preserving our souls is thus a charge to look at our souls as the main reason for rejecting idolatry. This verse, "Be careful with your souls," contains a commandment which ties in with this theme. We live in a physical world where all of our human senses perceive reality as the physical trappings of existence. It is so easy to get lost in our perception of reality and lose sight of the fact that there is so much more to existence than the physical facade. In taking inventory of the beautiful world Hashem created, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that all of this external beauty of our world contains the source of all divinity. Hashem warns, you may see the form of an animal or a bird who flies in the heavens. You may see insects or fish who inspire you, or you may look up and see the sun, the moon, and the stars. These are all beautiful, perfect creations that reflect my glory, but do not think that true reality lies in these things, no matter how glorious and beautiful this physical world is. There is a spiritual reality which is far more real than anything on this physical plane. As such, be careful to preserve your body, but not for the sake of your body, but for the sake of the real you, your soul. You know, the beauty of living a religious life is that our vision penetrates far deeper than that surface. When we look at another human being, we're not supposed to see just a living organism capable of advanced thinking. We're supposed to see a neshama, a soul. When we look at the beauty of a sunset or a majestic landscape, we're meant to translate that breathtaking beauty into a spiritual experience. When we look at a piece of produce, we're supposed to see a gift from God, one that gives us an opportunity to feed the hungry. I'm so inspired by a project that our shul has been doing. Some people affectionately call it VaEschanan, our garden on the west side of our property, which was started by members of the shul as a way of showing the community this Jewish value. Growing vegetables isn't just a nice hobby to keep us busy over the summer. It reflects the core values of a Jew. We take the blessings of the soil and we share those blessings with others. We've now managed to feed a number of hungry individuals who have partaken of our open basket system, where people can just take vegetables from the basket that abuts the street. What a Kiddush Hashem. We just completed our successful mikveh campaign. A Jew sees that an ablution pool isn't just a halachic duty. It elevates the person who uses it. As such, it needs to be held in the highest regard by the members of the community, allowing each woman who uses the mikveh to feel that exhilaration of not just immersing in water, but undergoing a spiritual transformation. This is the essential nature of all mitzvot, taking something physical and being able to see a deeper reality behind the physical facade of that object with which we perform that mitzvah. An etrog is much more than just a citrus fruit. The truly spiritual individual sees this more and more as one goes through life. And you know something? This is a universal message. You don't have to be an Orthodox Jew or even Jewish to see this. This is why the Gemara, in its story, cited a non-Jew as quoting the verse from the Chumash, stating that a human being is much more than a collection of tissue and that every moment of life is infinitely precious and should not be squandered, since there is so much we can accomplish in the short time that we're here. The entire justification of preserving our bodies is in order to enable our souls, the main part of who we are, to grow and be productive for as long as possible. As the Talmud states when sanctioning Shabbos violation in order to preserve one's health, violate one Shabbat in order to observe many future Shabbatot. It can only be in that context of maintaining a healthy soul that we are charged with maintaining healthy bodies. For after all, what is the benefit to being alive if we are not being spiritually productive in that life? In a world which has mistaken the facade of reality for reality itself, part of our role as individuals and as a community is to counteract that simplistic and occlusive outlook. Our goal should be, with every bracha we recite, with every ritual we perform, with every kindness we extend, to look past the facade and appreciate that the physical body truly is a wrapper for the soul, and that Hashem's world is far deeper than the surface. May we succeed in this holy endeavor, dear friends, which will hopefully usher the redemption during our lifetimes. May we see it b'mheira b'yameinu, amen. And here's wishing you the nechama, the consolation truly of this Shabbat Nachamu. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom.